All councillors and guests and members of staff. Today is the ordinary council meeting, 27th of September 2022. I declare the meeting open at 2:02 p.m. The Glamorgan Spring Bay acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Today we have all the councillors present, save for Councillor Brandy. I understand is still caught on the Australian mainland and can't get back when he wanted to. We have members of staff here, directors and the electronic staff there with Jazz and our General Manager, and of course John Heck, a member of the public. Welcome, John. Thank you for coming. Are there any late reports? General Manager? No late reports. Are there any councillors who have an interest or conflict? And I'm interested to know whether you have any interest personally or via an associate as defined under section 49 of the Local Government Act 1993, or any conflict as described in the Council's Code of Conduct for councillors in any item included on the agenda. No conflict of interest, I'll proceed. Next item is confirmation of minutes. Is there a motion? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Thank you. I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 23rd of August 2022 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Councillor Robinson, seconded. I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their right hand. Against? I declare the motion carried unanimously by those who are in the room. Next item is 2.2, special council meeting, 30 August 2022. Can I have a motion? Councillor Robinson.
That the minutes of the special meeting of council held on 30th of August 2022 at 2:30 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Arnold. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone that wants to speak? If that's the case, I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their right hand. The motion carried unanimously. Item 2.3, workshops. There was a workshop Tuesday, 13 September 2022. Can I have a motion? Councillor Browning.
Move that council notes the information.
Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Woods. I put the motion. All those in favour, raise their right hand. Against? Carried unanimously. Councillor Churchill, I've been assuming that your left hand is your right hand because that's been the one that's been reaching into the air. Oh, well, I've just noticed I do know my left from my right, only just. Now, next item is public.
Which hand you use?
Oh, beg your pardon, Councillor Arnold. Did you wish to say something?
Which hand you use, as long as you indicate that you vote.
Well, I understand. I won't indicate hands next time. I just say raise a hand or two. It's public question time. Question on notice, item 3.1. There is a question on notice from Lynn Taylor, and there is a response from the General Manager, which is in the agenda. Now, item 3.2, question without notice, General Manager.
It's through Mr. Mayor. Yes, we do have questions without notice, and I accept that Mr. John Heck is in the audience. These were received in writing prior to the meeting, so I read them verbatim. My questions relate to, this is Mr. John Heck. My questions relate to conflict of interest, code of conduct, or worse, error in law. 3 councillors have, I believe, been advised, I'm reading verbatim, by council's legal consultants that they must leave the council meeting chambers in any matter of Cambria Estate. Councillor Browning, as a near neighbour, may be seen to have pecuniary interest, but Councillor Brini and Councillor Churchill, none obvious pecuniary association. Why, if said councillors choose not to vote on matters relating to Cambria Estate and remain at the meeting table, be in the wrong as per Local Government Act and Council's Meeting Procedure Act? So the response to that comment or question is council does not discuss legal advice it may receive with members of the public. Mr. Heck goes on for a second question. The conduct of Councillor Arnold immediately following the meeting of 24th of April at 10:09 p.m. as per attached copy of full transcript. This has not been included in the agenda. Published on the Tasmanian Planning Commission website is, I believe, questionable. A possible conflict and or a planning officer's failure, a possible error in law, which should Councillor Arnold be re-elected, be required to leave the chambers on any further matter associated with Canberra Estate. General Manager's response. In response to this question, the purpose of public question time is to facilitate the asking of questions by members of the public regarding council's operations. However, your questions are directed at certain elected members rather than the operations of council. For those reasons, this part of your question cannot be accepted, but the following may assist with the general subject matter of your question. Point A, each elected member is personally responsible for identifying conflicts, for example, per council's code of conduct relating to the conduct of councillors, or pecuniary interests as per the Local Government Act 1993 Part 5, and taking the necessary steps to declare such matters and exclude themselves from the relevant deliberations and decision-making. And Part B, the responsibility is personal in nature and is a matter for each individual elected member to monitor and manage as they see fit.
That's the response, General
That is the
Manager.
response, yes.
General Manager, thank you very much. Mr. Heck, thank you very much for raising those questions. Item 3.3, responses to previous questions without notice taken on notice 23rd August. There is a question from Mr. Willett, which is in the agenda, and the response from the General Manager. Next item is 4, Planning Authority section. There are no reports, so there's nothing further to be done under that particular item. Item 5 on page 14, financial reports. Item 5.1, financial reports for the period ending 31 August 2022. Is there a motion? Councillor Churchill.
I move that council receives and notes the financial reports as attached to this report for the period ended 31st of August 2022.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Simons. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to say that once again, they're very thorough. I can't find anything in there that raises any major questions. And I think most of the questions that are raised in the P&L are covered in the notes to that P&L. Really, I have no questions at all. Thank you.
Anyone wish to say anything further? Well, that's the case. Seconder, do you wish to say anything?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor. That's all
Well, that is the
in
case.
order.
Thank you very much. I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise a hand. Councillor Churchill, thanks for putting your right hand up now. All those against? I declare that the motion carried unanimously. Next item is section 24 committees, 6.1 Swansea Hall Committee minutes. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, you're right.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yes, I'll move that the minutes of the Swansea Town Hall Committee meeting and the AGM or Annual General Meeting, held on the 17th of September 2022 be received and noted.
Is there a second? Councillor Browning. Deputy Mayor Woods, do you wish to make any comment about them?
Yes, I do, if I may, Mr. Mayor. On page 17 of the agenda, it says Keith B to communicate with council as to how to cover hall management costs. And I was going to ask councillor Breeny, but he's not here, but can I ask you through the mayor if that has sort of taken place with staff?
Asking the General Manager.
Yeah.
General Manager,
Sorry,
you're able to answer that off the cuff.
just on page 17, Deputy Mayor, are you referring, sorry, just repeat that.
Just
to me.
underneath cleaning, down under at the bottom of the page before it's,
Review group equipment manager reminder, and I'm not sure whether that has progressed or not.
okay,
I'll take that on notice.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise a hand. Against? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Next item is on page 20, Coles Bay Hall Committee minutes. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Churchill.
I move that the minutes of the Coles Bay Hall Committee meeting held on the 22nd of August 2022 be received and noted.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Simons. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, Mayor, if I may, just to acknowledge that this Section 24 committee is running particularly well and currently getting excited about the possibility of a further grant that they're aiming to get and hopefully will get, which will allow the commencement of the construction of their annex, which they've been looking forward to and working on for longer than I've been on council. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask a question through you to Mr. Porch?
Yes, please do.
On 1, 2, 3. On
Which page? Oh,
some, I have, it's been a long time since I've been at school and I couldn't remember what B1 was. It's 6, item 6. The results have been achieved with the pathway around the foreshore returning to the original agreed proposal. A view sort of through you to Mr. Porch. So the original plan for the walkway has come back to that original plan.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that's correct. So there was an original plan which the local group had organised and done an ARR through parks.
Mr. Porch, could you speak up? The microphone doesn't appear to be working perfectly. Do you like to sit at the chair?
Yes, apologies. I think the microphone went flat. So yes, there was an original pathway developed, and that went through an ARR process with Parks to get approval for the location of it. Somewhere between that being developed and the changeover of staff over a 6-month period from one to another, the original consultants were given a different direction with regard to where that path should go and how that path should proceed. The drawings were developed on that basis. We went to the community for that public consultation, and it became apparent to us fairly quickly that there had been an earlier design, which we weren't aware of, or when I say design, an earlier direction for the path. Actually, just on plan view to go through the bush there. On discovering that, we went back, found that, and are in the process now. We've had that surveyed now, We're in the process of working through what limited detail we need now, again, to manage additional costs, to be able to come back to the community now with this is the proposal. This is the way it appears to look. In the meantime, Parks have done an area of pathway in a similar vein. We'll use photographs of that to say this is the style of path that reflects the original intent of the development. And we hope to have, within a month and a half, 2 months or so, opportunity to go back to the public again with that to enable us to then go to tender with that and get on with the job.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mr. Porch.
Anything
I
further?
may
Deputy Mayor?
have further there. I just need to see if I can find it, if
Mhm.
that's okay.
Take your time.
With that being said, how much of the grant money has been spent on the project thus far?
That would be, through you, Mr. Chair, that would be contained in the financial reports under the capital.
What's detail?
Works, yes. Coles Bay foreshore. Carry forward from last year, 865,000. Cost year to date, 6,870. So the difference between those two figures,
Excellent.
about $860,000.
Right. Okay. Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Porch.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
did
Porch.
see that, but I was looking for it.
Are there any other questions or queries? If that's the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise a hand. Against? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Next, item 7.1, Director, Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Porch. Again, there's a detailed report here. I won't go through it. It's in the agenda for all to see. With some very nice graphs, very nice pictures. And I call for a motion.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Thank you. I'll move that council notes the information.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Robinson, thank you. Any discussion?
Yes,
Yes,
I'd like
please.
to raise a, not so much a question, but just a statement, and perhaps through you, Mayor, Peter Porch could respond. Clearly, we've had a lot of issues with rain and water, and you guys have probably seen it, council staff more than I have, around the municipality, of all the potholes on the road, deterioration due to the rain. And now we've had that and that landslip at Spring Beach on Rebben Road, which I'd like to thank the general manager and Peter Porch for coming out almost immediately to have a look at that, and that's being dealt with. Just on that matter, particular matter, the landslip, and also all the, the extra additional potholing and deterioration of roads we've had, is there a plan to try and access some additional funding for those? That's my first question, for those issues. I mean, the one at Rebben Roads, as Peter's already indicated to me, is going to be it's not going to be a short-term fix. It's going to cost a lot of money, but obviously there's other issues as well happening at the moment. So I'm wondering where we're going with all that, and under roads, bridges, footpaths and curbs. The second question is that Rebben Road landslip now added to that list?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
I guess
Mr. Porch.
broadly speaking, about the challenges that present from the range of stormwater issues we've identified. Council would be aware that we've undertaken a number of catchment analysis for the Orford area, and we're currently working on the last we can fund for the moment for Bishano, where the existing systems are modelled to see what they can cope with, and to identify deficiencies in the systems. Besides those, we are very conscious that we have infrastructure that is at the end of its life or past that. just with respect to stormwater and the catchment plans that have been done for Orford to date and a few other projects we know about, there's in excess of 100 stormwater projects on the list. Ranging from not very much to a significant amount of money. And we could include other jobs in there that aren't currently on the list. I mean, one could argue that with the deterioration in certainly the condition of West and East Shelley roads and those areas there, that the real fix for that is to construct curb and channel right through and in the process replace the road, which basically needs it. There's probably $1 million either side of Jetty Road if we were to include those projects in there. So the 100 odd projects that we've got in there, ranging from not very much to a lot, would probably be in the order of $3 million worth of work there, which is going to be challenging to fund over the long term. And we as officers, we'd recommend projects as they come forward and for funding based on risk to human life and then risk to property as being the first priorities and work our way down from there. Opportunities to fund these works is hotly contended, what money is available. So through SES, where flooding occurs, and like the issue with Reuben Road the other day, and from Wylangta from last year, and numbers of other bridges, we do get a quantum of funding associated with that if the Premier declares that it is a significant event, involving multiple agencies and things like that. So there's a likelihood, given there were storm warnings from the Bureau of Meteorology. SES put out bulletins effectively to warn about the impost of the flooding, that we would be successful in that. From time to time, other grant funds come up for particular things. We can only wait on those to come up and put in our best bids when they do to endeavour to get funding for those to move some of those projects forward. And some of the higher order works where you've got risk to life and risk to property. It's going to be a significant issue for council continuing on into the future, and the best we can do is get what money we can, look for opportunities to put good cases to state and federal government when those funding opportunities come. The work that has been done in preparing the reports that we have is really good information to have to be able to back up our arguments for the need for funding on those. So we do what we can to be able to provide to gain access to funds from elsewhere, but they are hotly contended. And beyond that, it's to council's resources to try and fund new works on top of our renewals.
Mr. Porch, can I say, sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I also say, is it correct that even if we are successful with a grant, with a funding application for road rehabilitation, for example, that invariably there's a co-contribution required?
That's the case, yeah. I mean, we've seen in the last 4 years a very unusual situation where through and as a result of disaster on disaster, starting with the drought and the floods and the pandemic, significant initiatives by the federal government to stimulate the economy and get things and continue to stimulate the economy. That will come to an end. I mean, those funds aren't going to continue ad infinitum. So where we've had the luxury of grants of $1 million for multiple projects that do not require any co-funding, that will cease. It is not the norm. What we've seen in the last 4 years, it's not the norm. The norm is that council put up, I think, up to 50% of the cost of the project, and the federal government or state government may co-contribute to that if they think that that's an adequate project. So bridges, you might generally maybe from 15 to 50% a council would need to provide. Fortunately, we haven't got any significant bridges. We do have some bridges that need replacement over the next few years, but not significant. But our main issue again is in just our basic roads and our stormwater infrastructure, which is at risk.
Mr. Port, thank you very much for that. I note that you've got some considerable difficulties. I note recently visiting Bishano, there's an area of the road that leads down towards the park and where there used to be silver sand situate. Some of the stormwater there has to run uphill, and I just don't know who designed it in the first place and how on earth you deal with the situation where the stormwater has to go uphill to get into the plain to stop people wading through their offices in not quite knee-deep water, but quite substantially deep water. So I imagine that there are a tremendous number of jobs yet to be done and costings to be affected, and we do appreciate your very hard work in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just add to that through you, Mayor? Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's been really good with our current council staff is that we've prioritised a lot of these things, and we've got a list of all our roads, all our stormwater issues. And as Peter Porch said, we've got about 100 on the go. And, my main concern was funding, and I think you've answered that really well. Thank you.
Now, I don't think we put the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise their hand. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Port. Next item is 7.2. Manager Buildings and Marine Infrastructure, Mr. O'Leary. Thank you for coming in, Mr. O'Leary. That's much appreciated. Can I have a motion? Councillor Churchill.
I move that council notes the information.
Is there a second? Councillor Simons. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the matter of marine and building infrastructure?
Yes, please, Mayor, and
Yes.
just a quick question, if I may. There seems to be a lot of stuff going on there in this area, but I'm just have one very quick question. We note here that we have increased our fees already by 15% this year, the marina fees. How's the occupancy going for that, Mr. O'Leary?
A lot of complaints came through. It's flat. Testing.
It's good.
It appears to be flat. You want to just come up here, Mr. O'Leary, and talk?
I think it's all right.
Sorry about that. Yeah, obviously I got quite a few complaints. People ring me, but a few people opted not to continue leasing on. I think I had 4 people pull out, and currently the harbour master and I are going through the list to accommodate, I think, 3 or 4 boats. Tassel pulled one out, not because of the price hike. They just decided that they only needed 2 instead of 3. But overall, they've basically stayed in the berth. But yeah, voiced a complaint about it. But, yeah.
If I may.
Yes, please.
Yeah, prior to that fee increase, I think we had about 30 odd people still looking for berths.
We had 51 people on the waiting list for a berth. And then when, for a couple of factors, some people just pulled out of the marine, not because of the price hike, just because they were moving on, as well as a couple of people pulled out because of the price hike. And as I always do, I go through the waiting list from the date people have gone on it, and quite a few people pulled out. I think I've currently down to about 30 people remaining on the waiting list. Of those, there would be at least 15 that want to stay on the list but aren't ready for a berth. So it actually has been hard to fill some of the berths. I'm sure there's people out there that'll jump into it straight away, but it's just, being able to vacate their berth, but they might be signed up for, it does make it a little bit difficult.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mr O'Leary, through you, Mayor, to Mr O'Leary. The Saltworks boat ramp.
Yes.
First line is councillors waiting for Parks and Wildlife to give consent to lodge a development application. Do we have an update on the time frame for that, please?
I rang Kath Hitchcock last week for an update, and she told me that Parks and Wildlife are going through all their processes and changing everything. They're still finalising what level of reserve activity assessment they're going to put us under. And she basically said to me that I should be contacting Mars to get another extension. I've already had 2 extensions for the 100,000 for the jetty. I've rung Marston and forewarned them that I might need another extension to the 30th of June 2023. The money that we've got in the budget for the toilet is safe till June 2023. But Kath couldn't give me a set date, and still waiting.
Thank
It's
you, if I
frustrating.
may, Mayor. That was going to be my next question, because I know the toilet building is under a grant process,
As well,
but
yeah.
if we've got a few
2
months, but
separate grants. Yeah.
unfortunately, time seems to be going by very quickly.
It is, and it's just, I can't even lodge. I was hoping that we could lodge the DA and have that process running in conjunction while they determine the RAA, but they've decided they don't want to do that. They want to wait till they've made that decision.
Thank you, Mr O'Leary, very much.
Are there any other questions? Yes, councillor
Through
Simon.
you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. O'Leary. The boat ramp extensions at Bishano, have they been signed off and finished up? as complete?
They've been checked by the engineers, signed off now, but they're still under maintenance. So that they're under the engineering maintenance for 12 months. And then at the end of that 12 months, that'll be signed off and handed to council.
Yeah. And it's been very well received in Bishano. It's made quite a difference down there.
Yeah,
so
they've done a good job
well
on it.
done. Thank you.
Any other questions or queries? Well, Mr O'Leary, thank you very much.
Not a problem.
It's quick. Now, I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise a hand. Against? I declare the matter carried unanimously. Now, the next item, public art and memorial policy. Is there a motion? Councillor Browning, thank you.
I move that council adopts the public art and memorial policy as attached to this report item effective the 27th of 9th, 2022.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Robinson. Councillor Browning, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like
Yes.
to thank the Director of Works for this policy, as it provides us as councillors with a clear process with which to deal with a sometimes very emotive issue. Having a standard form to fill in will make it so much easier.
Thank you. Any other queries or questions? Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. The Tasmanian Seafarers Memorial Committee, which is a Section 24 Committee of Council, has had significant involvement in the assessment and installation, acceptance and installation of plaques on the various memorials in that area. My question is, does this policy mean that that Section 24 Committee will have no further involvement in the acceptance or assessment of plaques?
Now, that's a question I assume to Mr. Vorch. Is that
Please, if I
correct?
may.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Vorch.
Through the workshops, this was identified, and which I appreciate. And you'll see on at 1.2 under scope. We've included the clause in there that relevant Section 24 committees can be delegated with particular.
I'm sorry, could you start again, Mr.
I'm
Porter,
sorry.
please?
I apologise for that.
So under 1.2 scope,
Yes,
we included a clause in there to say that relevant Section 24 committees can be delegated with particular jurisdiction to implement this policy on behalf of council. So we'll go through that process and make their own determinations with respect to the appropriateness of the applications that are made for those areas for which they have a concern. So in the application form, we included there a tick box there for historical or other culturally significant events related to a particular site in the municipality, including seafarers and fishermen.
Can I just apologise, Mr. Porch? I did read the document, but somehow or other I managed to miss that paragraph. So my apologies.
Well, we appreciate the input to the policy to include that.
Thank you, Mr. Porch. Any other questions or statements about the matter? Accordingly, I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise a hand. Against? Carried once again unanimously. The next item is War Beach Dune Rehabilitation. It's in Bishano. And it was quite a detailed report and dealing with a concerning matter. Is there a motion? Councillor Browning.
I move that the council receives the report and notes the information.
Is there a second? Councillor Simons. Councillor Browning, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Through you, Meg, just maybe to Mr. Porsche about the age of the report, which goes back to 2009. And I think from 2007 even. Is it relevant in 2022 or does some more work need to be done on it?
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There's certainly the historical value of the report there in terms of many of the findings there, are effectively being lived out. That we can see that there is significant erosion through looking at the photos from earlier stage to photos that are taken now. We can measure the total area in there and see that there is erosion there, and really just to identify that this has been a location that is significant to elements of the community, that there is erosion occurring there and would happen at a greater rate. The report is really just to identify that it has been an ongoing concern for sectors of the community for quite a period of time. And it indicates that despite the concerns being raised previously and work done on there, that there is still an erosion of the natural habitat in the area.
And through you,
Yes,
Meg,
please.
do you think the rehabilitation is going to stop the erosion and inundation from the ocean?
Going through you, Mr. Mayor. So you've got wind erosion, you've got a number of other factors that are going to impact on there. One of the, if you take the long-term view, and we have to think about, we certainly have to think about the impacts of climate change, that potentially at some point there will be greater wave action on the beach there, erosion of the sand area there, erosion of the areas in front of these properties. So in terms of, it's a reasonably protected little area, I have to say, but those things it has the potential to erode and to with the denuding of the dune, the protection that's offered by the foliage there, to eventually come back to the property frontages. It's again, like identifying that there are some real concerns of an environmental nature there. There are groups of people who are interested in trying to retain and save what we have, and council, having a licence for the area, has responsibility there under various acts to look after the natural values there. So if council can give support to those organisations who are interested in that and provide the level of governance associated with its land, then if I'd like to think that we could save the remnant of foliage that's there for future generations, but it will be a challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Porch. Councillor Simons.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Porch, is it a reasonable assumption to think, just looking at the pictures, that there's actually been quite a bit of encroachment from residents and probably from public? That's obviously not helping the erosion situation?
Certainly, that's correct, Councillor Simons. There is, in fact, it's quite surprising when you have a look at what is the actual council reserve area there, and if you look at it on the ground there, you could be very confused with thinking that that there's some private land holdings go a lot closer to the beach than what they do. Some of that looks, it looks quite nice. Other areas there that is only accessible from the properties themselves, and there's no question there's clearing of areas in front of properties there where grass is extended in, areas are mown longer. But the intention of part of this is education, to write to the landholders, to make them aware of the risks that they face in doing this, not to come down with a big stick necessarily, but to make them aware of the risks that they face to their own properties, and that there are some natural values there that enhance the area, and that their actions, they may not be aware that their actions are putting those things at risk.
Thank you, Mr. Porch. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question in relation to it. It's more a technical question to
Please
you.
raise it. Yes,
To you in
please.
terms of the minutes of the thing, and I'm certainly not proposing any amendment to the motion, other than I think for the purposes of the minutes, the motion should read that council receives the Warbs Bay June Rehabilitation Bishano report, so that the report is actually named in the minutes rather than just receives the report.
Are the mover and seconder happy with that amendment? Well, I won't ask for a formal motion, but I'll ask that our minute secretary noted
Thank you.
that it's referred to as the Warbs Beach Dune Rehabilitation
Bishano report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Churchill.
If I may, to Mr. Porch, through you, just from the benefit of my education, / application, is it what it sort of sounds like? Is this, you explain, please.
Can you
you want to elaborate,
refer me
please?
to the exact spot where I've
Councillor
where
Churchill.
I've got that
Mentioned a
noted?
couple of times, I think it was in the, actually in the attachments, but it sounded to me as if it's material that's chopped up and put there, but I don't know. I just made a note to myself. I can't remember exactly where it was. If I go back to the, if I go to the attachment, somebody will find it.
Well, the attachment starts at the annexure page 18, I think, and one goes through there. Points to consider. If anyone can point me to it more quickly, please interrupt and do so.
Here we go. It's on page 4 of the report. Under the recommendations of rehabilitation of the sand below should be limited to the top third of the dune using brush mulch. The local provenance / of varying diameters in length / can be seed bearing.
I think
So
it's
page 4 of the report of the
5
Sally
or 6
Johns report.
It's 5 or 6 lines from the bottom too, as well.
So I can leave that with you on notice, and you can educate me later if you wish.
I'll take the question on notice.
It's a very difficult question to ask, and a brave man who can answer it.
That's fine.
It is.
Yes, yes, please,
just a
councillor
comment.
Simons.
The report you read is 2009, and it's identifying all the things that haven't changed in 2022. So
It's quite a concerning report, really, the question of inundation. And any other questions or comments before I put the motion? I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their hand. Against? Once again, carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Now, the next item is 8.3, tree policy update. And can I have a motion? Yes, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Thank you. I'll move that council adopt the tree management policy as attached to this report, item effective 27th of September 2022.
Councillor Arnold, your seconder, who
I
beat
will.
me to the mark. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Deputy Mayor Woods, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor
pretty
Arnold, do you
straightforward.
wish to speak to the motion?
Really.
Yes, councillor Robinson.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, just a question, and Mr. Porch might be able to answer it fairly quickly. Obviously, with tree removal, a person can't remove, poison or otherwise destroy any species of tree on public land owned or under the care and control of council without the written approval of the general manager or by court order to remove, which is 2.4 on the attachment. What happens if someone does do that? Is there an act of Parliament?
Do what, councillor?
Removes or poisons a tree on public land without permission.
And you're asking, what are the consequences to the
Exactly.
offender?
Is there an act that sort of relates to that, or because there's no mention of any penalty or anything like that?
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. No, there's no mention of any penalty there. What we have listed is the related policies and legislation.
Yep.
So depending on where it is, what the circumstance might be, there would be a specific section of legislation that were contravened. The penalties would be associated with a particular offence.
Okay, so it might be units, so many units penalty or something like that, like they do with government acts and things.
That's correct.
And council would be responsible for implementing that?
I believe, in the first instance, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, councillor Churchill.
This is just a small thing that I think just requires a correction in the policy document, I think. Under objectives, 1.4 objectives, each of those objectives are then listed as 1.31, 1.33, 1.32, etc. I would have thought that should have been 1.41.
In the actual document.
page 4.
1.4, they should,
Just to
yes.
correct it before.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's a typographical error, it would appear.
Something like that.
Well spotted.
Well, with those amendments to the tree policy.
Oh,
sorry, yes,
Sorry,
Councillor Arnold.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a comment that follows on from councillor Robinson's question. In the related policies there is listed the Forest Practices Authority. And if a matter was determined under that, there are significant penalties.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And I'm going to add two, Bob's worth, councillor Robinson. If they're council trees and someone poisons them, then it fits within the tort law where damages could be claimed for damage to property owned by the council. And I could imagine quite easily, if we wanted to take court proceedings, a damage claim could be made and the measure of the damage would be likely the cost to replace the tree as it was at the time it was poisoned. And it could be a significant amount with a significant impost together with costs against the offender if they could be discovered.
That's through you, Mayor, just the final thing, that's an issue, isn't it, at the moment? There's quite a few instances in Orford, I know, and we've just got the big signs put up and they're quite costly. Well, I'm not saying they're not a good idea. It is a matter of finding out who has done the damage, otherwise nothing happens.
Yes,
Just for you, Mr. Mayor,
General Manager.
I think there's a price to pay for what people are trying to achieve when they do this land clearing, which is mainly around improving their water views. And Mr. Porch's comment about education being part of this overall strategy to reduce instances is a very important one, because at the end of the day, you know, it costs the property, whether it's dune denuding and the dune washing away, or whether it's another environment. When you remove vegetation, natural vegetation from those environments, you're putting your property at risk. So I think slowly, but hopefully, surely there is a change in community attitude. In regards to those clearings that you refer to and the signs that we have to the south of us here, I don't know if you've noticed, but where it has been cleared and the signs exist, there's vegetation growing up so much now that they're covering the signs. So they have, in a sense, served a purpose, some of those. It'd be nice to think that if there was an obvious case of clearing in front of a property, that a knock on the door could happen. When it's obvious that it's only that property that's views are being enhanced. But hopefully in time people are going to understand that this is to their detriment and to the wider environment detriment.
Thank you, General Manager. I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their hand. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item 8.4, car parking, cash in lieu, contribution policy. Is there a motion? Councillor, is there a Councillor Churchill?
I move council adopts the car parking cash in lieu contribution policy as attached to this report, item effective 27th of September 2022.
Councillor Robinson, I assume you're the seconder. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the matter?
Yes, just briefly. Thank you, Mayor. I didn't compare it to the previous one, but it's only a year or so since we put this through, I think probably for the first time. Is there anything outstanding through the Mayor to our Director of Planning? Is there anything in there that's actually a significant change to 12 months ago?
Through you, Mayor, thank you for your question, Councillor Churchill. No, the essence of the policy is still exactly the same. So part of our policy renewals is that they are reviewed after the first year of adoption. This one, the only real changes that occurred was we just reflected the new scheme that was implemented rather than the interim scheme that we had at that time. So, yep.
Thank you.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Wood.
Thank you. Mayor, through you to Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
On page 37 of the 1.3 definitions, it doesn't read very well. As in, it says cash in lieu means, you know, and then it looks like there's not a, to me, I was reading it and I'm thinking council planning scheme, and then you look across council is Glamorgan Spring Bay Council, planning scheme means, but it's not, doesn't read quite well, if you know what I mean, like it's very hard to read it. It's on page 1.3, which is called it's definitions on page 37 of the.
Deputy Mayor, you're referring to planning scheme definition?
No, the whole definitions. It just doesn't read. I mean, I'm probably being a bit picky.
No, I can see where you come from.
Is it the formatting?
The
that-
formatting of
Yes,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
If I may, Mayor, could I make a suggestion that
Councillor Arnold.
perhaps the way to go, Mr. Woodward, would be to put that in a box, if you like. So you've got the
Separation.
title here and the definition here, but it's in a box separated, would make it a little bit easier to read, perhaps.
Mm.
Yeah,
Was-
certainly.
Yeah, because transport infrastructure, it looks like it's reading, it looks like it's a whole sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's just a little bit of nitpicking, but
But
to make it easier to read.
Through,
councillor Woods, are you suggesting that it be just set out in a different manner, slightly different manner?
Formatted.
Oh, I see. Yes,
Through-
it has some unusual formatting. I'm sure that Mr. Woodward would be able to reformat it to accommodate the true intent.
through you, Mayor, yep, certainly we can update the formatting to make sure something like Councillor Arnold suggested to update that.
Well, yes, councillor Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to our director. I was just wondering, 2.4.2, determining construction costs. Do we determine that on a cost of a subcontractor that does a car park for council? Because I'm assuming we don't do any car parks ourselves.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for your question, Councillor Simons. There is, so we have several ways of doing it. There are sort of industry standard costs that are there, and you can use sort of Rawlinson's cost guide for those type of things. So we try and use a consistent method through that.
And so going a bit further with that, how many car parks did, say, council undertake last year to maybe look at that cost, or did we?
So over the last 12 months, effectively, we've only had one application where this has come into effect.
Right.
So in a sense, this has sort of worked because the policy's there to, I guess, to encourage people to make sure that there is parking.
Yep.
Rather than council having to provide it at additional cost or utilising ours. So, but there's only been one instance that this has been utilised.
Yeah. So in effect, one park was bought last financial year for a development.
I believe that there was only one application that was, I think the parking shortfall was 1 or 2 spaces.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Woodward, can I ask, is the fee really the costs plus 50%? Is that roughly in a layman's way of looking at it?
Not really.
Oh, well, perhaps you can explain it to.
So it's the cost of the land and the construction costs of
Of the car park.
of that, but then dividing it by a half, because you're getting a community benefit in a sense from that sort
I
of
see.
development. So what we're trying to recognise here is that rather than set it at just a standard fee, because the cost of parking in Triabunna might be completely different to the cost of parking in Bishano, CBD, for instance. So you're really trying to get I guess, an even playing field, depending where the development is occurring.
So in other words, it's half the cost. Councillor Simons, is that?
I'm sorry, no, I'm just nodding my head in agreement with you, but that's my understanding.
You could say that, yes.
It's
if
very
you-
roughly
yes.
comment, a very rough comment.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or queries or comments to be made about the matter? Well, if that is the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their hand. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Woodward, for that. The next item is proposed council office closure for Christmas, a very contentious matter. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that council endorses the closure of the Triabunna Council offices from 1 p.m. on Friday, the 16th of December 2022 to reopen Monday, the 19th of December at 9 a.m. and close from 12 noon, Friday, the 23rd of December to reopen Tuesday, the 3rd of January, 2023 at 9 a.m.
Is there a second? Councillor Simons. All those in favour, please raise their hand. Against? Carried unanimously. Next item is 8.6, Community Small Grant Application. Is there a motion? Councillor Browning.
I move that council approves the application for a community small grant funding of $915 to Swansea Community and Men's Shed for a defibrillator.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Simons. Well, I assume that there's no discussion against the proposal. Does anyone wish to say anything in favour of it? Yes, please, Councillor Browning.
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to say that I think it might be a good idea if somehow council, maybe to the general manager, can advertise where these defibrillators are so that it's easy for people to know where they are, other than because there are some that are like the one at Cranbrook at the hall, and I don't know how many people know where that one is. And does anybody know where the one in Tribunna is? I think something either, I don't think C Speak's the place, but somewhere to get it out to where people can actually access.
Well, Councillor Simon, Councillor Browning, that's a very good idea. And I'm sure the general manager will take notice of that, because I'll need to know it. I might be the first to need it.
Well, I thank you through, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Browning. I think we may have an answer already in terms of a new world of applications.
Through you, Mayor, thanks for your question. So there is an app that's called AED Locator, which is widely broadcast, and you can put it on there and it essentially checks your location. It says where the nearest one. So what we've been suggesting is that we'll be adding the ones that we have, that council has, to this app, and I believe there may also be a website which does it as well.
Right.
But we could look at getting a hard copy and maybe updating it on our website as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Woodward, because not everyone in Swansea or Tribunna has a mobile phone even. Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Could I just ask Mr. Woodward if there's an AED listed at Buckland on that app?
I can certainly check and let you know.
Appreciate that, because there is one in
There is one
Buckland.
there.
Yes.
Councillor Churchill.
I just have a question of the director, if through you, Mayor. Along with the location of these, assumedly there is something there about the accessibility and the hours of access. Is that on that listing? Because I know that some of these are locked away.
9 to 5 access would not be good enough, I would have thought.
Some of them are.
If I may, Mayor, if I could
Yes, please.
sort of answer that. The one that I'm aware of in Buckland, that was actually allocated to our club on the basis that it was installed outside and that it was within, I think it had to be within 15 minutes driving, was the basis for it. So it's actually outside on our club rooms and accessible to anybody in the Buckland community.
Through.
Yes, Councillor Browning again.
Through you, Mayor. Oh, but there's also the one at Tribunna District High School.
Oh, there's several.
That's
There's
inside.
Yeah, there's one
Gets locked
on
up.
the outside wall, if I may, at the RSL club. There's actually one outside there.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a number of them around that, as Councillor Browning has identified, people probably don't even know where they are.
If I could raise something with the general manager and the director. Maybe those that council fund could be move from locked cupboards to some place that's accessible 24 hours a day.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we just, that's certainly, we can review all of these and certainly the ones that council fund. There's one here in this office, as councillors would be aware. Again, it's in the foyer and it's only available during office hours. There have to be other considerations though with these around security and vandalism and all that sort of stuff. But certainly we can look at a global picture of all our defibrillators, and bear in mind too, this is very important. It's not, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not council's responsibility to ensure that once the defibrillator is installed at all these various locations, to ensure that it's calibrated, that it's checked, etc., etc. That is the property. Yeah, that's an important thing to remember, because it's pointless having a defibrillator if it doesn't work, or if the staff within that, if the people that are normally within that location don't know how to use it. So staff within this building, for example, certain staff within this building know how to use the defibrillator, and there's a clear set of instructions there anyway. But yeah, there's responsibilities that come with a defibrillator, is what I'm saying.
General Manager, a very important point, but sometimes a bit of talk and persuasion might bring those that are outside our control at least aware of the fact that they've got a life-saving device there that no one can use, and maybe it might be a motivation to make them learn how to use it. Thank you very much. All those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried. Item 6.7, road closure, Tribunner, Tasmania Seafarers Memorial. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Simons.
I'll move that council notes the road closure in accordance with section 19(1)(a) of the Local Government Act 1992, Henry Street between Vickery Street and Esplanade. 1982, Henry Street between Vickery Street and Esplanade West, and on Esplanade West between Henry Street and Charles Street, Tribunner. That would be from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I think it also should say on Sunday, the 16th of October.
Mr. Simons, you happy to have
Oh, sorry, 12:30. Did I?
On Sunday, the 16th of October.
On Sunday, the 16th of October.
Mhm.
that? I assume Councillor Simons is now part of your motion.
Yes.
Is there a second? Councillor Arnold, thank you. Is there any discussion? That being the case, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Once again, carried unanimously. Next item, 8.8, Squid Festival. Is there a motion? Yes, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yeah, thank you. I'll move that council approve the application for event assistance of $2,000 and provide in-kind assistance as resources permit to the Spring Bay Squid Festival event.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Robinson.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
please, Deputy Mayor.
I just have a question on page 51, which is under background overview and point 3, chair hire, 120 chairs. Which chairs and where will they be? Like, where are they wanting the chairs, the said chairs? The
Yes.
question is because if it's the ones from the Tribunner Hall, which I think there is about 120 of those, are they going to be used outside or inside? Because it wouldn't be a very good thing to have those chairs outside.
And Deputy Mayor Woods, are there not facilities for chair hire from the RSL? You
Yes.
might know that. Yes, Councillor Arnold, I see you. you're nodding your head. So there are some sources. Would our director know the answer to that question, or is it just a
Well,
provision?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I can answer that. The event organisers have, and they spoke about it at the official launch, have considered inclement weather for the event. And if there is really inclement weather, most of it's going to be held indoors, and the chairs would be indoors.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, are you happy with that answer?
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, if I may also comment, they have managed to commandeer other parts of that site, if you like. They've had discussions with, so it's not just the old, the Spring Bay art facility building. It's also with the old, what is it, Oyster Farm?
Abalone.
Abalone. It's also the men's shed component,
Okay.
which is right next door.
Yep.
That'll be part of the festival.
Are there any speakers? Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. When we've had applications like this in the past, we have talked about the potential for the event to raise their own funds. And this is a ticketed event, although there's no detail about the cost of tickets yet. Having said that, I really have no problem in supporting the event this time, this application, as I'm absolutely sure it's going to reinvigorate Tribunna in terms of festivals, and we have to be grateful for that. I just wonder whether future requests for this type of event could be assessed or need to be assessed on the potential for the event to be self-funding from ticket sales in the future.
Councillor Arnold, thank you very much for that comment. Much appreciated. Councillor Churchill.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to agree with Councillor Arnold on this point, and already we don't really know yet where this event's going. It's great in my mind to be seeing a new event with the potential that this might have over time, but I think we will need to wait and see what is happening with it, whether it is an inclusive or an exclusive event. And I think around that, our judgment on continued funding should perhaps be assessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Simon.
Just further to that, and it's probably through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager. And I can't recall the exact time, but it was in the months ago. We did speak of this. We've spoken of this a lot, actually, and we did talk about looking at having a committee of slightly removed from council to try and assess what the cost benefits. I don't know if you recall those conversations about what the benefits of whatever proposals put forward, and whether there's some key things we can agree to as a council that allows us to fund those. And I'm certainly happy to fund this event. I'm sure it'll be great and really good for Tribunna, but sometimes I think we just do it because we're asked. I think sometimes I want to see the data that says it will bring this benefit to Tribunna. It makes it much easier to justify the decision of giving it ratepayers' money, and I'd like to see that progressed.
Councillor Simons, is that referring to all small grant applications?
Oh, I think
generally?
it's not generally. I think it's events. I think it's more events. Otherwise, if we've got to bring, there's people in our municipalities who are well educated and well versed in the area of tourism that can actually identify how these events will run and what the economic benefit is and the social benefits. And I think we need one or two of those people to overview the proposal, and then we can look at what those benefits are and be somewhat guided by what they say.
Councillor Simons, thank you very much.
For you, Mr. Mayor, if I can just make a comment, I think the comments raised by, the points raised by the councillors are valid, and we do all accept that this is an inaugural event, and we'll see how it goes. It's quite difficult sometimes to put a tangible benefit, like a tangible monetary benefit on events, because the events in Bishano are a good example. You know, they bring a lot of people into the area. They obviously spend money, they obviously stay over and all that sort of stuff, but you can't easily quantify that necessarily specific for an event. I think as part of a process, whether it's a committee or whether it's part of our fact finding when we do these reports, that we actually include in the reports the sort of analysis or the research that was done, even with the event organizers, particularly with inaugural ones like the Squid Festival. What are you expecting in the way of numbers? What, you know, and then we can sort of just get our heads around, we can accept that there's going to be, even though we won't be able to put an exact dollar on it, we can accept that there's going to be people in Tribana, you know, spending money in the town as a result of this event. I don't know whether we need to go as far, but I'll be guided by council of setting up a specific committee to do that. But I think there's an obligation on us as officers to present council with some sort of idea about that sort of expectation, if you know what I mean. Numbers, attendance
Councillor
numbers.
Robinson.
Yeah.
you wish-
Yeah, just briefly following on from what Councillor Simons and the General Manager has said, I think initially, maybe in the report that's presented to Council, as you're suggesting, General Manager, some information from the proponents as to what benefits they see, and then, but particularly with an inaugural one, and then maybe following what Councillor Simons says, if that's not realised in the actual outcomes of the festival, and then you know, we use something like that to look at it in the future.
Anyone
point to
else
take
wish
it.
to say anything?
Take that on board.
That being the case, I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their hand. Against? Carried unanimously. Next item 9, notice of motion. There are none. Apart from
It's an error.
next item
That's actually
9.1.
an error.
That's an error, Mr. Mayor. There is actually 2 notices of motion.
Mm.
Yes, of course there is. Next one, item 9.1.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that council write to the Department of State Growth requesting the installation of a barrier that will prevent pedestrians from falling into traffic on the bridge or on the Orford and Buckland Tasman Highway bridges.
Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, very good motion. Do you wish to speak anywhere further to it? Please speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I've spoken to quite a few people with regards to this issue, and and they took it upon themselves to write to us about this consideration. And I've got a copy of it here. I'd like to share it with councillors, if I may.
Do you wish to table it or read it out loud?
I'll read it out,
Thank you.
if I may. It says, like, it was they took the motion from last month's agenda where I couldn't move it because I was sitting in the chair. So therefore, it's here already. Mr. Porch had sent an email through to Fiona. Fiona's responded, or Kristen's responded, and it says, Dear Peter, the department has considered your request to install a pedestrian fence between the traffic lane and footpath over the Prosser River Bridge at Orford and the Bushy Plains Rivulet Bridge at Buckland. The department understands that council's primary concern is for the safety of the path users who might stray into moving vehicles. Prosser River Bridge at Orford. The department has completed detailed investigations to determine the feasible options to improve safety for path users. A structure assessment was done which found that the bridge structure is capable of supporting some additional loading. So I did actually say is capable. And an operation report was prepared to indicate the range of potential feasible options. The options range from installing a separate pedestrian barrier to building a separate pedestrian structure. However, all of the options are unfunded in the department's capital investment program. Some of the options may actually result in increased traffic risk safety. Excuse my cynicism, councillors. The department has inspected the Prosser River Bridge and identified that the line marking on the bridge can be adjusted. This includes moving the centre line of the roadway, which is currently closer to the footpath, and providing edge lining similar to the bridge in Buckland to clearly demarcate
Demarcate.
the limits of the lane width. This is a low-cost treatment which literally shifts southbound traffic away from the path users with a clearly marked road shoulder between traffic lanes and the footpath. This is planned to be done this financial year. Brushy Plains Rivulet Bridge at Buckland. The department has inspected the bridge and considers that the pedestrian numbers are very low and there is little to no footpath infrastructure either side of the bridge. This is a little roadside development. There is little roadside development in the area, and as a result of this, the road is subject to an 80-kilometre speed limit. Bearing in mind, Orford's is 60 kilometres. And that's not written there. A pedestrian fence near the travel lane would potentially be a hazard to both motorists and pedestrians if struck. The Department of State Growth via Infrastructure Tasmania is conducting a cordial study on the Tasman Highway. The information collected in our investigations of options to upgrade the Prosser River Bridge will be included to inform the Tasman Highway. Oh, gee, that's a hard word. Corridor, study and weighed up against other priorities for projects for the corridor. That's from Kristen Raw on the 15th of September. Councillors, that I don't accept because I so believe that this is an accident waiting to happen, and it's one that I don't want blood on my hands with regards to it. I walk across that bridge, as I've said, ad nauseum with my grandchildren. The other day I walked across the bridge with my grandchildren and dogs, but the dogs jump into the traffic. You know, there's no safety whatsoever with regards to that. And Buckland has got an 80-kilometre speed through Buckland, and we've got 60-kilometre. And yet they're saying that Buckland, there's no need for that because they've got an 80-kilometre speed limit. I'm going to keep fighting this because it's not just me that has concerns. There are concerns within the community and they are not being heard by the department. They've been basically put on notice with regards to this, so I will continue to fight it while ever I am a councillor. That being said, that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Seconder of the motion, I agree totally with the Deputy Mayor. I think I think we need to continue to put pressure on for the safety of our communities.
Deputy Mayor, I'd like to speak in favour of the motion. There is a general common law obligation for big institutions to comply with modern standards as the standards of safety increase from time to time. Ordinary individuals are not obliged to upgrade to the new safety standard. Big institutions are, and I do know there's a court case which I could probably dig out in Western Australia where there was a damages claim arising from an injury that occurred because the modern standard was not adopted by an institution in that state. So I think that motion that you and Councillor Arnold have proposed is first class. I put dog on. Yes,
Sorry,
yes, please. Go
this
ahead.
motion now is not necessarily, it's, can't remember the terminology of it because we've got because it's the council right to the Department of State Growth requesting the installation of a barrier. It's a retrospective, is it retrospective motion? Because the motion has actually been answered. So further to that, I will be investigating another motion to bring to council with regards to this matter. because it's now retrospective.
Ratifying what we've already done.
Thank you.
Yes.
If
Is
if
any
I
other
may, if I
comment?
may, Mayor, though, I
Yes.
mean, if I may, yes, I take the Deputy Mayor's point, but at the end of the day, this is a motion that's going, yes, there is an answer there, but it's not an acceptable answer to council. So why don't we write to the department again and tell them that we wanted this installation of a barrier? Simple.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, General Manager.
the correspondence from State Growth is basically saying two things. One is the proposal that they suggesting they can implement fairly easily and it wouldn't be costly. And that's the demarcation, changing the lines. But it gets back to the point in the original motion from the Deputy Mayor that it doesn't provide the physical barrier.
And with
So-
great respect, General Manager, a line does not stop a 4-year-old from falling onto the road.
Correct.
Nor does it
So-
stop a truck.
So the actual motion as it stands there now refers to a barrier and council could follow up again
Yes.
with a letter to that effect.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there seems to be unanimity on this motion. All those in favour, please raise their hand. Against, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Next page. 9.2, notice of motion, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council seek a report from officers providing information on the mechanisms for developing a road to an accessible standard and the impacts for council and property owners of these processes. Of those processes, sorry.
And you're referring to 680 metres strip to the south?
Yeah.
From what point?
From Strip Road in Pontypool, is it? No, Little Swamport.
Is there a seconder? It's an investigation that we seek.
I'll second it for the.
Yeah,
purposes
yes,
of
thank you, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you.
Do you wish to speak to
Yeah, well, I was being contacted by the residents out on this road with regards to their accessibility to their properties. And it's not ideal. And this is just seeking a report from council as to what we can do or what can be done.
Well, the
It's not
I-
actually taking on the road necessarily, it's just seeing what can be done.
Yes.
If I may,
Is there a seconder?
there is a seconder and that was me.
Thank you.
And I support the Deputy Mayor in this because I had the same contact from those property owners as well.
Thank you very much. Well, I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise their hand. Against? Carried unanimously.
Thank you,
Doesn't do any harm to be informed, does it?
No.
Now, petitions, there are no petitions. Are there any questions? Item 11 on page 59 from councillors.
Questions on notice? No.
Are there any questions without notice?
Yes.
Yes, please.
It's fine from
Deputy
me.
Mayor.
If I may, I do recall asking this question, but I don't know whether I asked it within the constraints of the council meeting.
Well, please ask if you can.
Why is the toilet sign at the reception area here covered
No,
when this is a public building? So it doesn't, so you go, I know it's random, isn't it? But I have actually been asked by a resident that they come to and if you might get cut short, there is no sign there, it's all covered over.
well,
Could that be a hangover from COVID
I'm
or?
going to go out on a limb here, Deputy Mayor Woods, and say that it is a hangover from COVID. So we will, now that we're back to normal,
Mhm.
I think that can be removed, unless there's another reason that I'm not aware of.
It's a random thing, I know, but there you
I
go.
hadn't noticed that. to
We'll
be honest.
remove the sign from hanging over it, please.
Thank you.
Item 11 point,
Two,
yes.
with that,
Yes, question without notice. Go ahead.
And if I may, Mayor, it's not actually a question. I'd just like to make a statement.
Yes, please do.
The October meeting is the last meeting of this council as it sits. I understand that council's executive officer, Ms. Jasmine Murray, will be on annual leave in October. As a retiring councillor, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Murray for the work she's undertaken for council and the assistance she's given to me personally in undertaking my duties as an elected member. Thank you.
Yes, we all concur
Yes.
in that. Thank you.
Have a happy
Jasmine Murray,
holiday.
yes.
Enjoy your
Yeah, and we'll all be very jealous of you in Hawaii.
We will indeed.
Thank you. Now, next item, 11.3, response to previous questions without notice by councillors taken on notice, 23rd. There was a question from councillor Arnold. There's a response in the agenda from General Manager.
Could I just
Yes,
add
please.
something? Thank you. My question was in relation to the actual cost to council of the service, the day, the Sunday. There appears to be $1,500 in this list that may not be attributed to running the actual service. I'm not aware of any site set up on the day on a Sunday. That's generally undertaken by volunteers from Rotary and Spring Bay Lions. It would seem the plaque inspection should be costed against the maintenance of the memorial rather than the actual service. And the other cost that may not have any relevance right now is the PPE. So I accept the figures that the General Manager has with those exceptions, and I thank him for the response. I appreciate the
Councillor
response.
Arnold, do you seek to have a supplemental?
No, not at
response?
all. Not at all. I appreciate the General Manager's response. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Can I
Councillor
just
Arnold.
make a comment though, because, when you do look at those numbers, you think, there's some substantial numbers in there for certain things.
Mm.
The plaque cleaning, I didn't realise until I was informed of what a significant task that is done by a specialised contractor, not done by council staff. But sorry, it was done. This wouldn't be a normal cost that we would incur regularly. It was done specifically for the event, expecting that it was going to go ahead.
Yes.
And the plaques hadn't been cleaned for some time. But there's a lot involved, as I've tried to capture in the brackets there.
If I may, Mayor, I understand all of that. And can I say that for the last 19, 20 years, Mrs. Ferguson, who has been on our committee for that length of time, she has generally been the one that has cleaned the plaques and the like from year to year. It hasn't been an ongoing cost to council. I think this particular time it may have been because the governor was coming or whatever, that was the situation. But and again, I'm still a little bit concerned about the site setup and preparation, because double time on Sunday, because I don't believe any staff member has an involvement in that site setup up to this point.
Oh.
Maybe in 2 weeks' time, maybe, but I don't think so. But as I
Councillor
say,
Arnold.
that's fine. I'm okay with that. I just want to clarify those two things.
Councillor Arnold, thank you very much for those comments and clarification. Now I come to item 12, which is a confidential item, and I thank Mr. Heck for coming to the meeting, and I must now ask you to leave.
Thank you,
Much
John.
appreciated you
Thank
coming.
you.
Thanks, John.
Now, item 12, in accord with the requirements of the Local Government Meeting Procedure Regulations 2015, I declare this meeting is closed to the public in order to discuss the matters set forth in item 1. And it's closed at the time of 3:35 p.m.
You need it.
I
Do you want
move that
motion?
council moves into closed session at 3:35 p.m.
Second it.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Woods and Councillor Arnold. All those in favour, please raise their hand. I declare the meeting, the minute